Участие также 4 ведущих представителя энергетического бизнеса из Азиатско-Тихоокеанского региона.
Уважаемый Александр Александрович, дорогие гости, прежде всего хотел бы поприветствовать вас. В этом году форум отмечает свое 25-летие. За это время он стал важнейшей площадкой для плодотворных дискуссий, обмена мнениями. Традиционно, как сказал уже Александр Александрович, дискуссия проходит на самом высоком уровне, наши оценки и прогнозы подтверждаются, что говорит об актуальности рассматриваемых тем и о глубоком понимании происходящих в мировой экономике процессов со стороны участников дискуссии. И сегодня, несмотря на известные ограничения, я хотел бы по просьбе нашего модератора представить и поблагодарить наших сегодняшних участников, среди которых Тайхулян, председатель Совета директоров КННК, Китайской национальной корпорации, Алока Кумара Гупту, главного исполнительного директора ОНЖС Педро Акина, президента и главного исполнительного директора компании ОФИР из Филиппин, Нобуо Танака, исполнительного директора Международного энергетического агентства в 2007-2011 годах, а также модератора нашей дискуссии, академика Российской академии наук, президента Института мировой экономики и международных отношений Российской академии наук Александра Александровича.
Игорь Иванович, спасибо за представление. Я прошу вас выступить с ключевым докладом.
Спасибо, уважаемый Александр Александрович. Еще в 2018 году мы говорили о том, что политика санкций и ультиматумов на рынках углеводородов приведет к появлению перманентной санкционной премии в цене нефти и отмечали риски новых ценовых рекордов. Теперь все это, как мы видим, стало реальностью. Глобальный экономический кризис набирает обороты на наших глазах. Президент России Владимир Владимирович Путин охарактеризовал изменения, происходящие на мировом рынке нефти, как тектонические. Надо понять, что мир изменился полностью. В условиях уничтожения действующих финансово-правовых инструментов, ранее обеспечивающих функционирование мирового рынка, отрасли предстоит оперативно найти решение для организации работы в новых условиях. Сам по себе глобальный кризис не является следствием санкций, но санкции, безусловно, до предела обостряют и ускоряют нарастание всех кризисных явлений. В понимании США санкции – это некая волшебная палочка для реализации политических и экономических целей. Когда нынешние механизмы не обеспечивают достижения целей, а политические возможности отсутствуют, США прибегают к санкциям без всяких оснований. Санкции уничтожают незыблемый ранее институт контрактных обязательств, саму судебно-правовую систему, финансовую, транспортную, промышленную сектора и, как следствие, социальную сферу, в итоге сам глобальный рынок. После Второй мировой войны создание МВФ, превращение доллара в основное средство обеспечения мировой торговли, Соединенными Штатами, объявившими себя лидерами свободного мира, была разработана концепция и технология применения односторонних санкций, жертвами которых последовательно становились Китай, Северная Корея, Куба, Иран, Ирак, Венесуэла, Ливия, Россия. В настоящий момент односторонние санкции США затрагивают 26 стран по 176 так называемым пакетам санкций. Что касается нынешних санкций против России, то просто процитирую недавнее выступление замминистра финансов США Уоррена Деймо, из которого прямо следует признание произвольного и беспрецедентного, то есть не опирающегося ни на какие правовые прецеденты, характера характера этих санкций. Двоеточие. Мы, говорит Адеймо, использовали санкции для достижения двух целей. Лишить Кремль доступа к ресурсам, необходимым для поддержания российской экономики. Мы приняли беспрецедентные меры для того, чтобы парализовать значительную часть резервов Центрального банка России, нейтрализовав целевой резервный фонд, который Путин годами создавал для этого сценария. Но американские санкции свели на нет его усилия в считанные дни. Кавычки закрыли. С точки зрения оценки правовой базы этих действий даже нечего добавить. Это практически, знаете, выглядит как заявление самого себя прокуратуры. Тоже Министерство финансов США в своем обзоре при применении санкций за 2021 год отмечало, что санкции должны быть эффективным инструментом для достижения политических целей, дающим возможность ослабить способности стран распространять свое влияние, а их последствия должны тщательно оцениваться. Оценка последствий санкций должна использовать максимальную возможность спектра информации, вплоть до разведданных. Также отмечают, что для США риск представляет не только страны-конкуренты, но также международные технологические платформы, обезличенные цифровые валюты и отдельные инновации. Фактически, все, что не может быть подконтрольно США, отнесено Минфином США к факторам риска, подрывающим глобальное доминирование американской финансовой системы. Из заявленных Минфином США принципов следует, что для того, чтобы подвергнуться санкциям, не нужно быть преступником. Достаточно того, чтобы действия того или иного субъекта на рынка или физического лица противоречили политическим или экономическим целям США или просто конкурировали с ними. При этом это содержится в их собственных документах, опубликованных на официальных сайтах. Принцип верховенства права, зафиксированный во Всеобщей декларации прав человека, принятой Генеральной Ассамблеей ООН 10 декабря 1948 года, основополагающих законов государств, в том числе США и Европы, является основой любой современной конституционной демократии. Разрушение этого фундаментального принципа, применение санкций со стороны узкой группы стран привело к уничтожению базовых основ правовой системы, сложившейся в мире по итогам Второй мировой войны, защиты права собственности, свободы ведения предпринимательской деятельности, права на судебную защиту и других фундаментальных прав. С примером так называемого правосудия в ЕС наша компания столкнулась, когда спорила введенные в 2014 году санкции. Суд ЕС, отказывая в удовлетворении требований Роснефти об отмене незаконных санкций, признал, что компания не имеет никакого отношения к событиям на Украине. Однако, по мнению суда, деятельность компании критична для наполнения бюджета и развития России, в связи с чем санкции в отношении компании Таким образом, суд Евросоюза прямо признал, что целью санкций против Роснефти является причинение ущерба экономике России и ее гражданам, что нанесение такого ущерба является допустимым и правомерным, если это отвечает внешнеполитическим целям ЕС. В результате мы стали свидетелями создания Соединенными Штатами и Евросоюзом предельно упрощенная схема подведения фактически любого лица под санкции. Не требуется сбор каких-то доказательств и обоснований. Санкции вводятся по надуманным основаниям, отсутствует адекватная мотивировка, присутствуют явные ошибки, прямые фальсификации в оценке фактических обстоятельств. Как правило, для введения санкций неправомерно используются сфабрикованные сообщения подконтрольных СМИ. Можно констатировать, что введенное еще в римском праве в III веке понятие презумпции невиновности сегодня уничтожено. Все, против кого объявляются санкции, изначально являются виноватыми, без всяких оснований, что оправдывают любые незаконные действия. Так, например, официальные лица администрации США в очередной раз абсолютно голословно и неправомерно обвинили нашу компанию в поставках иранской нефти в Европу. Хотел бы поблагодарить Министерство иностранных дел России, выступившее с решительным протестом против выдуманных обвинений, озвученных высокопоставленными должностными лицами США. Можно привести многочисленные примеры санкционного произвола, игнорирующего все правовые нормы. Так, в апреле Греция задержала российский танкер, сославшись на якобы перевозку иранской нефти. Хотя судно не нарушало никаких законов, под давлением американской администрации греческий суд принял решение в пользу США, поддержав конфискацию и отправку нефти в Штаты. Позже, однако, это решение было отменено. Во Франции российский бизнесмен, не буду называть фамилию, человек и так был лишен активов и права на частную жизнь не за какие-либо действия, связанные с участием в каких-то конфликтах, а за то, что оказался бенефициаром в совместном предприятии с компанией BP в России. При этом второй бенефициар BP санкции обошел. Поразительно. Глобальный кризис 2008 года не был преодолен, он был задет эмиссией. Эмиссионные возможности, казавшиеся безграничными, были исчерпаны где-то в 2020-2021 годах. При этом любое существенное повышение ставок РС означает риск рецессии и риск удорожания обслуживания долга, как государственного, так и корпоративных долгов и долгов физлиц. Таким образом, базовой причиной инфляции в США является безудержная эмиссия доллара. Далее мультипликаторами инфляции стали ускоренный зеленый переход, экономически бессмысленный, отсутствие экономически осмысленных технологий, политически мотивированных. Также пандемия, искусственный разрыв логистических цепочек, беспрецедентные антироссийские санкции. Эффективная борьба с глобальной инфляцией через повышение ставок, очевидно, является бесперспективной, поскольку приводит к коллапсу финансовой системы. Рост ставки ФРС радикально отстает и будет отставать от реальной инфляции. На самом деле, и зеленая революция, и антипандемийные меры, и гибридная война с Россией – это последовательно попытки организовать смену экономико-технологического уклада в интересах действующего доминанта. Антироссийские санкции, по сути, покончили с зеленым переходом. Остаточная зеленая риторика полностью противоречит реальной практике, направленной на поиск любой ценой любых источников углеводородов взамен российских. На самом деле, зеленый переход больше не нужен как способ манипулирования рынком при доступности иных более грубых и радикальных подходов. Знаете, 162-я статья Уголовного кодекса Российской Федерации определяет это как нападение в целях хищения чужого имущества, совершенное с применением насилия, разбой. Действующая глобальная финансово-экономическая модель, способная воспроизводиться либо с помощью экспансии и экспроприации дополнительных ресурсов, либо с помощью эмиссии, себя исчерпала. Возможно, итогом является в том числе отток инвестиционного капитала из Европы,
from Europe, where we witnessed a dramatic worsening of the investment parameters. In this way, America remains the only global financial and economic regulator and the economic dominant.
Европа в результате навязанных
anti-Russian sanctions forced on it
окончательно утратила субъектность
и
шансы стать не только политическим, но и конкурентоспособным экономическим полусом США. Совершаемое Европой энергетическое самоубийство будет иметь долгосрочные последствия. Мы уже видим снижение экономического потенциала, утрату конкурентоспособности и прямые потери для инвесторов. Как во Франции, фондовый индекс
for example, in France, the stock index CAC 40 went down 18%. The DAX index in Germany went down by 19%. In Italy, by 22%. So in total, investors in between these three European countries lost about 1.6 trillion US dollars. At the same time, against the backdrop of the decline of almost all of the stock indices, the capitalization of the leading three defense US companies, Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, since the beginning of the year grew by 19%, while the S&P index 500 went down by 23%.
В противоходе идут.
In reverse.
Тоже понятно почему.
Dynamic. easy to understand why. So giving up on the Russian oil and gas, Europe has turned itself into the region with the highest cost of energy, undermining the level of its market competitiveness. For example, the German index prices, or manufacturers' index prices, in April grew by 23.5% compared to the previous year, while the energy costs grew by 87.3%, which considerably undermines the competitive level of the biggest European economy. Besides, the manufacturers' price index grew by 37.2% compared to the previous year. The aggregated price index for energy grew by 35.6%. In general, but in Belgium, Netherlands, and Estonia, it exceeded the level of 60 to 70%. As the result of a significant speeding up of the inflation process because of the geopolitical risk growing and the disruption of the established supply chains and the deepening of the energy crisis, there occurred a structural growth of cost of essential products in Europe. The price for metals grew by dozens of percentages. The fertilizer prices altogether amounted to 180%, which in many ways became the consequence of giving up on HE gas, as well as the grain, barley, and corn prices grew by about 80%. Furthermore, one may expect even a bigger growth because of the delayed price growth effect on fertilizers. I mean, it is easy to understand that the economy is inert. If you don't do necessary investments today, then tomorrow you won't get anything. So overall, as deemed by JP Morgan Bank, the energy price growth only throughout 2022 may cost the Europe additional 550 billion euros, which is 14.5% of the European GDP. More and more Germans believe that the previous level of consumption is no longer affordable. The Ministry of German Economy, Robert Habeck, already acknowledged that the country will have to face new poverty. What Europe is facing, having accepted the anti-Russian sanctions forced onto it, is social degradation, effectively the dismantling of the social market economy. I mean, both social and market-based. This is the end of the post-war Great Germany's model, the well-being of everybody, and something that Germans were so proud of and believed the raw example for the rest of the world. The order based upon rules, this is the mantra, which means US-centric world that the Americans enjoy repeating all the time, and in violation of which they accuse Russia and China. But previously, these rules at least have been identified by the regulators and publicly were adhered to, like the supremacy of contracts law, the supremacy of law, but the so-called current order based on rules acknowledges the only rule, that all the rules are being set forth by the only regulator, and which can be changed at his discretion. There are no other rules. So, as a result, we are witnessing the disruption of the market. Rephrasing, we are seeing a one-polar world with the kind of polar center which has unhinged itself. So I would like to draw attention to the way the U.S. energy companies are functioning, continuous changes in the priorities of the national regulation and political directions against the backdrop of the green movement, the pandemic, and the shortage of energy leads to the shareholders not willing to invest long-term. And so here the priority are given to the investments which can regain investments very quickly, as well as priorities being placed upon dividend growth, minimizing investment in development. That is exactly the pathway that the oil and gas majors are following, which put their bets not upon long-term provision of available energy, but to ensure the short-term project with a quick payback, with the quickest extraction of profit, and to support the value of stock, as well as aimed at optimizing the assets, where very often what we see is just the divestiture from these assets, which creates returns longer term, which used to create this long-term return. Against the current oil price and growing dividends,
и выкуп акций,
and
котировки акций,
the stock buyback and the stock quote, for example, ExxonMobil have reached new maximum. But at the same time, the company is not growing its investments nor production. Overall, during the past 5 years, the total capital spending by measures into E&P has gone down by 29%. The saved resources from investing are being directed for dividend payout and buyback of shares, and the overall spending for that purpose grew by 31%. Following the strategy of immediate profitability raise improves the stock rating, but fundamentally negates future development. The reaction of the White House to the market behavior of the companies is demonstrated by the way that Biden spoke to the U.S. oil and gas companies. Let me quote, "There is no doubt that Vladimir Putin," that is what he is writing to Chevron and Exxon, Marathon Oil, and a number of other companies, is principally responsible for the intense financial pain the American people feel. But amid a war that has raised gasoline prices is exacerbating this pain. My administration is ready to use all sensible appropriate instruments and its emergency authority to increase capacity. Well, the full text of this letter is what we will post to our slide stacks. Those of you who might be interested will be able to read it in detail. We already know the reaction from the American producers and refiners to this letter. The American Association of the Fuel Producers and the Petrochemical and the American Petroleum Institute also responded to it. Let me give you a few quotes from that response. The prices for refined products are being defined by the international market. The refineries in the US are working with maximum load. About half of the refineries stopped down is because they're switching to the renewables future. The federal agency acts on your election platform to invest capital in traditional energy that would be more costly. And finally, the current situation didn't appear overnight, and it won't be possible to resolve it instantly. The current problems, to a large extent, are the result of high oil prices because of there being an imbalance between supply and demand. Secondly, because of the redistribution of the supply chain in the process of world going out of the pandemic, the high consumer demand, as well as the ban on the Russian products. And thirdly, political decisions made throughout so many years before. And all of this gives us reason to think that the sanctional resource against Iran, Venezuela, and Russia may ultimately reach out to the marketplace in the United States. Now, reducing the business scale happens because of the Western majors announcing stopping investments and voluntary withdrawal from Russia. For example, a long-time trusted partner to Rosneft, the British BP company, officially stated about its withdrawal from Russia in February this year, despite the fact that the Russian business gave it $36 billion of income since 2003 against the amount of investments made at the level of $10 billion US. So this announcement was an unexpected one. Rosneft completely unfounded in terms of the successful 36-year-long partnership, and it was not dictated by commercial BP's interest or BP's shareholders. However, despite all of the announcements of unequivocal withdrawal from Russia, BP continues to remain the biggest private shareholder in our company with a share of 19.75%. BP also remains as an owner in big major projects, including Tatyur-Yah, Yampur-Neftegas, and Yermak oil and gas. All of this testifies to the willingness to remain as an active participant in Rosneft's projects and wait until this unfavorable geopolitical situation blows away without major losses. Similar kind of wishes we note amongst some other Western majors, even against the backdrop of the seizure of the Russian hard currency reserves and the expropriation of the Gazprom's foreign assets. Russia doesn't create obstacles for the foreign companies to continue to operate in its territory. For example, even with respect to dividends. end
Единственное
the current limitations introduced by the Russian regulator is crediting funds to special bank accounts. And I would like to say that with regard to BP, that is exactly what we'll do. And the shareholders have decided that the dividend amount for last year will be a serious figure with 9 digits in hard currency. But at the same time, we hope that if the Russian property is attempted to be expropriated, similar measures against the assets of the foreign companies in Russia would be also put up for sale by the Russian regulators. And I would like to draw attention to the fact that 83% of primary energy in the world is being produced out of conventional sources. As viewed by JP Morgan against the backdrop of a quick economic growth of the emerging countries and economies in their efforts to improve the quality of life, the growth of the global demand for energy by 20% will exceed the supply. To eliminate shortages only in oil by 2030, the world will need to additionally invest $400 billion US. However, as already was mentioned against the backdrop of the reduction of investments, the majors most probably won't achieve that level, and the deficit of oil may remain for long. Currently, because of energy becoming more expensive, we see a catastrophic worsening of economic environment for businesses because of a dramatic growth of energy costs, which dramatically increases the cost of production. The most who may suffer is the steel industry, because without Russian gas to sustain continuous steel melting cycle is impossible. Complete giving up on the Russian gas, as deemed by the experts in Europe, may lead not only to stoppage of the steel industry, but also to the dismantling of many industries. Considerable consequences will be for the producers of ammonia and fertilizers. Back in 2021, the big European and British exporters and producers of fertilizers, because of high gas prices, had to reduce their output, which led to prices growing. Problems are not only limited to energy industry, they also roll out their influence over the metallurgy and fertilizers, and eventually to food industry. The Western countries not only to create problems for their economies, but also translate them towards the most vulnerable emerging economies. And in this way, crisis embraces the whole world. It's not accidental that the president of the World Bank, David Maltov, said that he doesn't see any option how to avoid a recession in the global economy in the light of an unprecedented energy and food crisis. As we have already noted at the Verona Forum, instead of mutual trust and cooperation, today we are seeing the way trends change their courses from globalization to regionalization. The involvement into the international distribution of labor increases the vulnerability of individual nations towards sanctions. Although looking at the sectoral pressure against Russia, other countries understand that the least they are involved in the global community, the least will be the opportunity for them to get damaged by the crisis. The similar trend we see in the gas market. The US are trying to convince European countries that in any scenario, the reduction of the Russian gas supplies, Europe won't be left without this energy. Nevertheless, Europe and the rest of the world do have the reason to have doubts and feel concerned. To dramatically grow gas production is impossible for such major LNG producers such as Australia, Qatar, or US. The efforts by the US may enable to grow production by the value which would be less than 10% from the output necessary to substitute Russian gas. Through that, in order to meet the European demand, one would require to bring gas from other markets, and primarily from Asia. As a result, Europe is already buying LNG intended for the developing nations who cannot compete with it on price. So, based on the available data since October 2021 until June 2022, more than 10 LNG supplies to Pakistan under long-term contracts were cancelled against the backdrop of a growing demand in Europe, as the result of which the country was forced to buy gas from the spot market at a much higher price in order to at least partially provide for its needs. As a result, a very powerful energy crisis has been provoked because of a shortage of fuel. The operation of 20% of the generating capacities had to be stopped in this 20 220 million people country, which have industrial consumers and households without energy. The average day outages in May and June reached 12 hours of daily long outages in cities and 16 hours in rural communities. Simultaneously, we see demand growing for cheaper substitutions, with the share of coal growing in the energy balance. For example, the coal-based generation in Europe, which grew in 2021 by 18%, in 2022 may grow by additional 1/3. We see a real coal renaissance, which in many ways undermines global efforts to reduce carbon footprint. The rhetoric by the Western countries towards the need to expedite decarbonization contradicts their own practical states, because in rhetoric they call upon reducing the carbon footprints, but actually they grow it, devastating other countries' economies. The crisis and deglobalization inevitably would lead to the changes in the global financial system. The existing mechanism, which has established itself after the U.S. refused to peg the U.S. exchange rate to gold, which stimulated the development of globalization over the past 40 years, are going to get altered. The disproportionately high share of dollars in the reserves of the central banks, which accounts for about 60%, almost threefold exceeds the share of the United States in the global economy, which is a clear signal to now change things around, because the boundaries of the one-polar world have been clearly set, and quite quickly the process of change in the settlement system will happen, which may lead to an establishment of the new global reserve currencies. This is an irreversible process. In longer term, it will also lead to the global trading geography change. So the meaning, the significance of the US dollar as a reserve currency goes down. So giving up on the Russian energy already led to the flight of capital and the decline of the US dollar-euro exchange rate by 8%, falling down from 1.13, which was at the beginning of the year, down to 1.4 right now. So effectively, having banned trading with Russia, Europe has limited the flow of its currency, having diminished its attraction for the purposes of international settlements. So with the blocking of the Russian seizure of the Russian hard currency, golden currencies, euros and dollars lost their status of sound currencies, because it is evident that accessing them at any point in time can be curtailed. So you should be able to start reducing this as well as to expand using national currencies to make more active the contact between the national banks and to strengthen the integration of the national payment system from different countries. Without doubt, our joint efforts should not be limited to financial area only, which in itself is not valuable, but is just an instrument to transact. Another direction that may strengthen cooperation and which may promote trade balances of the countries who are interested in that could be mutual investments simultaneously that may help to lower dependence upon euro and the dollar. Broadening the partnership and building joint institutions will help us to create an effective alternative to a one-polar world. The buzzword of the year, deleverage, the flight from debt. Whereas in the past, money used to flow from one market into another, nowadays everything goes down simultaneously, apart from hydrocarbons and even gold, which is traditionally used for reserve purposes. Dollar is growing as the last resort. It is growing against the systemic inflation in the U.S. Many to say that the U.S. is the main beneficiary of the crisis because of the inflow of capital and the growing dollar. And against that, with the inevitable growth of rates, the cost of servicing this humongous U.S. debt is growing. And in the short foreseeable period, recession and stagflation. We already see the recession beginning. The fall of the American S&P 500 index was 23% since the beginning of the year. As far as the poorest Asian and Latin American and the emerging economies are concerned, which don't have their own available energy resources, sanctions for them transform into the growing energy and food prices and the possibility of hunger and economic collapse, which is also
виновата ли в
being
этом
acknowledged
Россия?
by those who are behind
этих стран
this
очевиден. Для них суть санкционной политики Запада ясна. Это дискриминационная политика,
essence of
по
the
сути,
Western
российская.
discriminatory policy is
В
clear.
наиболее
This is
мягкой форме
discriminatory policy
отношение к
against
такой
Russia. In
политике
the softest
сформулировал
possible form
министр
of an
иностранных дел
attitude
Индии
towards it was shaped by Subramanian Jayashankar, who is the
Запад
Foreign Minister of India.
заблуждается, если
The
считает, что
West
остальные
is
страны
being
мира должны решать их проблемы.
misled
При
in
этом
understanding
отказываясь решать
that the
проблемы,
rest of the
которые стоят
countries should
перед
be
другими
resolving their
странами мира.
problems while
Китай
not
изначально
trying to
строил
solve
свой
other countries'
грандиозный
problems.
экономический
China was
рост в
building
рамках глобальной
its
экономики.
huge economic
Тем не
growth as
менее,
part of the global
в
economy,
настоящий
but
момент
nevertheless,
США
at
объявили
this point
Китай
in time, the
главной
United
угрозой,
States announced
как
China as
экономически,
the main
так теперь
source of
уже и
threat,
военно-политически.
economically and
Характеризуя нарастающее
militarily and
технологическое
political.
противостояние США
The
и Китая, глава
growing
КНР,
attrition
председатель
between
Си
China
Цзиньпин
and
заявил,
US
что
led to
технологические
Xi Jinping
инновации
saying
стали
that
главным полем
technological
битвы на
innovation
глобальной
became
арене,
the
а
main area
конкуренция за
of
технологическое
dispute, while the
господство
competition
станет
for global
беспрецедентно
dominance
жесткой.
will be unprecedentedly
Теряя свои лидерские
tough.
позиции в
Now,
основных
losing leadership positions
технологиях
in
21
core
века, США
technologies in
пытаются
2021,
сдерживать
the US is
Китай,
trying
который уже стал
to
безусловным
deter
лидером по части
China, which have
из них,
become
а
as
по
a country
другим
an
может
undoubted
обогнать США
leader,
в течение
and in other,
следующего
some other of
десятилетия.
them
Китай
may
значительно
take over the
нарастил
United States
расходы
within
на
the next
НИОК,
decade. The
которые
US has
достигли в
grown
2020
considerably
году
its spending in
580
R&D,
миллиардов
which
долларов.
reached
Это
$580 billion
сопоставимо с расходами
in
США
2020,
на
which is
НИОК.
coupled to the
Китай является
US
крупнейшим
spending.
рынком
China is
5G
the
в мире и
biggest
одним из крупнейших
5G
производителей
market in the world, one of the
оборудования
biggest
5G.
manufacturers of
Так, из
5G
5 основных
equipment. Out
поставщиков
of 5
такого
main
оборудования
suppliers of
2
such
являются
equipment,
китайскими, и
2
ни
are
одного
from
из США.
China, and not a single one
Потеряв
from the US.
конкурентные
Having
преимущества
lost
в данном
competitive
направлении,
advantages
США
in this
действуют
market, the
нерыночными
US
методами,
is resorting to
наложив, например,
non-market
жесткие санкции на
means
компанию
by
Huawei.
imposing tough sanctions upon
Единый
Huawei.
глобальный рынок мертв.
The single global market is dead.
Все прежние институты и
All of the
механизмы
previous
его
institutions and the
регулирования
mechanism
действуют
for
в
its
неэкономическом
regulation,
режиме, по сути, в
they are being
режиме войны.
applied non-economically. As a
В этих
hostility,
условиях
as a
невозможно
military action.
переоценить роль
Under
России
such conditions, it is impossible to overestimate the role
формировании новой
of Russia
конфигурации
in
рынка,
developing a
новых
new market
институтов
configuration, new
взаимодействия,
institutions of cooperation,
стремящихся к
which
независимости
are
от
trying
диктата и
to achieve
санкционного
independence
произвола.
from the
Руководство страны
dictatorship and
подчеркивает, что
sanctions. The
стратегические
leadership of the
задачи
country
обеспечения экономического
emphasizes
прорыва
strategic
со стороны
aims
ведущих
and the
институтов
economic
и
breakthrough.
экспертов растет
On the part
понимание
of
того,
the
что
leading
цели
institutions
экономической
and experts,
политики
there's a growing
вообще
awareness
не
that the
могут
purposes
лежать
of economic policy
внутри
must not
экономики. Об
be
этом
inside
еще Гегель
economy. That
предупреждал.
is something that Hegel warned us about
гегельской
in the
диалектики.
foundations of the Hegel's dialectics.
Вообще проходили на втором
Actually,
курсе
that is something that we were learning as
университета.
students during our
Наши
second year.
цели – это
So our aim
достижение
is to
технологического
achieve the
суверенитета,
technological
повышение
sovereignty,
эффективности
to
финансовой
improve the
системы,
efficiency of the financial
которая должна
system,
из прикладной
which
задачи
from
таргетирования
an
инфляции
applied
перейти к обеспечению роста
inflation targeting
экономики,
should be providing for the
эффективного
economic growth and an
взаимодействия,
effective
стимулированию
collaboration
упрощению кооперации
towards
с нашими
stimulating
настоящими,
cooperation
анонимными
with our
партнерами в
true
мире.
rather than
Движение к технологическому суверенитету уже началось с
So
установлением базовых
the move
производственных
towards the
цепочек,
technological
нарушенных
sovereignty has
санкций.
begun by
Мы уже видим
re-establishing
движение к
the
новой
supply
конфигурации
chain undermined
нефтяного
by
рынка, где
sanctions. We already
формируются
see the new
два
configuration of the
конкуренции.
oil
Для
markets where
дружественных
two
стран справедливая
centers are
рыночная
being
цена,
now
а для
shaped up.
недружественных
For the friendly
в
countries,
цене
it's a fair
прибавляется
market
премия, которая
price,
будет
but for
направлена на
non-friendly one,
погашение
there will be a
наших
premium in the
издержек,
price, which will be
связанных
aimed
с
at
нарушением
cushioning
правил и
our
обязательств с
expenses
нашими
related
бывшими партнерами.
to us,
В этих условиях важен
to us
ответ на
being
вопрос,
forced to
где он,
step away from the
этот Ноев
pre-established rules.
ковчег
So
мировой
the question
экономики.
is, where is this Noah's Ark
Россия
of the
с
global
ее
economy?
энергетическим
Russia,
потенциалом
with
и
its energy
портфелем
potential
первоклассных
and with its
проектов,
portfolio of
таких как,
top-notch
например,
projects,
Восток
such, for
в нашей
example, as
компании,
Vostok Oil in our
может
company,
обеспечить
may
долгосрочные
provide for
потребности мира
long-term needs
и
of the world
доступных энергоресурсах. И,
and make the
безусловно,
energy
и есть этот
resources
спасительный
available.
ковчег.
And that is
Восток
this
Oil крупнейший в мире,
Noah's
единственный
Ark,
по сравнимым
Vostok Oil, the
масштабам.
biggest in
Новый
the
проект.
world
Ресурсная
that is
база
comparable to the
6,2
required scale. Its resource
тонн
base
нефти
is
подтверждена
6.2
результатами
trillion
проведенных
tons of oil,
масштабных
which has been
геологических работ,
confirmed by large-scale
подробными отчетами
data
экспертов мирового
acquisition
уровня, международными
verified by the
аудиторами.
international auditors.
Нефть Восток
The
Oil
oil from
характеризуется
Vostok Oil
уникальными
project
премиальными
is
качествами.
characterized by unique premium qualities.
Я привез эту нефть.
I brought this oil
Вот она.
along. Here it is.
Это нефть Восток Ойла с крайне низким содержанием сера от
With lower sulfur from
0,01 до 0,1 низкой плотности, порядка 40 градусов.
0.1 with a very low viscosity of about 40 grade.
Оценка проекта крупнейшими международными инвестиционными банками JP Morgan 114 миллиардов, Raiffeisen 90 миллиардов, Citi 86 миллиардов, Goldman Sachs 85, Bank of America
86, Goldman Sachs 85 billion, Bank of America 70 billion, with the average here being about 89 9 billion. Oh. roughly $90 billion. It is worthwhile noting that Rosneft is already producing oil from the Vankor cluster, which is part of the Vostok oil, by using state-of-the-art technology, demonstrating the highest performance indicators in its efficiency compared to the industry averages, very successfully instituting the comprehensive data acquisition. So we tested 2 wells, exploration wells, and so we expect the reserves to grow to about 190 million tons. It has established that the Taimyr deposits are characterized by about unique kind of a pressure up to 160 bars, which would ensure the big output up to 720 tons a day after the hydrocracking. Overall, the results of exploration multiply exceed expectations, which makes it possible to surely plan a high level of output for many decades to come, with a phased reaching to 115 million tons by 2033. So one should know also very promising gas resource development here, which has been confirmed by us discovering at Taimyr the Mizenichev field, with the reserves of 384 billion cubic meters, which has been by the expert community as the biggest discovery in 2021. The unique Vostok oil project to its scale becomes the powerhouse which pushes forward the development of the manufacturing sector through its multiplier effect and investment. Against the backdrop of the reducing investment in the development of the oil and gas sector, Vostok oil is the only world project which is capable to provide stabilizing effect in the hydrocarbon market by having highest performance indicators, as well as stability, and so implementation of the project which enable one to produce a great positive effect for the shareholders in growing capitalization, creating powerful synergy effect for the rest of the country by direct access to the transportation artery, which is the northern marine route. The dependence of the project from politically unstable supply chains is diminished. The project implementation for Rosneft has neither no technological or resource difficulties. We possess necessary competences, skills, and knowledge in implementing such project. 98% of the material are domestically produced. According to the schedule, we have the pipelines and other material delivered through the integral contracting with the major Russian suppliers, and already we have more than 500,000 tons of products delivered. More than 1,000 units of the special construction equipment, a new automobile service center of the Urals Auto Works has been built and currently is functioning. We have assembled and installed the Arctic-class Russian-made rigs. Additional 5 production rigs are being produced, and altogether 100 drilling rigs have been contracted. We have mobilized now and in place. We have 24/7 work done by the Russian contractors, more than 4,000 people and more than 2,000 equipment units who are actively building the core technology clusters, the main pipeline Vankor-Payaha to the northern bay, 2,000 kilometers of pylons have been welded. We are following the plans in doing the land work, building the power lines, and so on and so forth. We have built and now operating 3 new berth facilities at the Yenisei River, which unload materials and equipment during this summer season. Additional 3 berthing places will be finished. We are actively building the oil pouring terminal. We are also building the artificial islands in the bays so that they will be able to receive tankers. We also build aviation infrastructure at the port of Dixon. We are building personnel. So altogether, the project is alive and kicking, fully according to schedule, able to overcome inevitable difficulties, and we are fully sure that all of the tasks that we set ourselves are going to be done, and we will need to do that before the great flood. So we'll be happy to see our friends together with us building the new Noah's Ark for the global economy. Thank you very much for your attention.
Игорь Иванович, большое спасибо за откровенный и глубокий доклад. and truly deep presentation. Thank you very much for a strategic analysis of the reasons the dire state of the economy and the world energy sector. And of course, thank you for your optimism. Thank you for being so optimistic looking into the future. And of course, the beautiful metaphor of the Noah's Ark. It's very time-dating. Well, and please bear in mind, the Noah's Ark has to be built before the Genesis flood. After the flood, it will be too late. That is true. That is important to bear in mind. Вот в нынешних кризисных для старого миропорядка моменты, конечно, очень важна и интересна точка зрения китайской национальной нефтяной компании. Руководитель этой компании, господин Дай Хоулян, это одна из заметных фигур в нефтегазовом бизнесе. Это человек с колоссальным опытом и глубокими экспертными знаниями. CNPC имеет продолжительную и успешную историю работы с Роснефтью. И мне представляется, что взаимодействие двух этих крупных компаний лежит в основе российско-китайского сотрудничества. Можно вспомнить, что еще в 2013 году был подписан долгосрочный контракт на поставку 325 миллионов тонн. Некоторые наблюдатели называли его сделкой века. В феврале этого года заключен еще один контракт на 100 миллионов тонн. Важно то, что Роснефть и CNPC ежегодно организуют российско-китайский энергодиалог, бизнес-форум, который, по сути, является и компасом, и барометром поступательного сотрудничества между нашими странами. Конечно, обе компании не проходят мимо низкоуглеродного развития. Господин Хоулян, как вы считаете, вот, учитывая зеленую повестку, удастся ли традиционной энергетике отстоять и сохранить свою роль? Каковы перспективы вот сегодня, летом 2022 года, у энергоперехода? Потому что Игорь Иванович очень убедительно показывал, какие проблемы там возникают. И позвольте еще один вопрос. Мы видим, что переход от глобального разделения труда к регионализации ведет к смене мировой экономической парадигмы. Как по-вашему, какие игроки получат от этого тренда свою выгоду? Прошу вас, господин Дай Хоулян.
感谢主持人，各位同行，大家好。感谢主办方的邀请。时隔1年，再次受邀参加能源分论坛。
First and foremost, I would like to express my gratitude to the organizers of this forum. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to take the floor. It is a great honor for me. Since the beginning of the year, we've seen dramatic shifts and changes happening in the world, strengthened by the pandemic. And we see the number of the factors of instability growing both internally and externally. All of it is imposing serious threat and shock to the global financial markets, to the prices, to the key groups of products, causing greater instability and uncertainty. Under these circumstances, we got to feel the particular importance of trust and cooperation. As a global producer and supplier of energy resources, CNPC is cooperating with more than 30 countries of the world. Facing new challenges, we are going to develop business in our country, deepen our cooperation in the international market, demonstrate greater openness, and stick to the strategy of internationalization, following the principles of mutual benefits and strict compliance with the early agreements. We're going to analyze the opportunities for new cooperation. We believe that the so-called green, low-carbon transition in the global energy sector is a trend of time. However, in this process, oil and natural gas are still playing a vital role. In my speech last year at this panel, I was saying that the energy future would primarily be structured along an energy mix, and CNPC is following this philosophy of gradually expanding the exploration and development of oil and gas in the country. Research Institute for New Materials in Shanghai, we develop heat, wind, solar, and hydropower. Of course, we develop the carbon capturing, usage and storage technologies, and of course aim to develop cooperation in the area of new technologies in the energy sector.
应对气候变化，保障能源供应安全做出贡献。谢谢。
Likewise, we are paying every effort to preserve the current level of supply. Thank you very much for your attention.
Благодарю вас, уважаемый господин Дайхаулян,
за ваше выступление, за ваши ответы и за ваш очень сбалансированный взгляд по поводу низкоуглеродной и традиционной энергетики. Господин Танака, приветствую вас еще раз в нашей панели. Господин Танака сам очень известный человек в мире энергетического бизнеса. В 2007-2011 годах возглавлял Международную энергетическую ассоциацию. Сегодня он возглавляет наблюдательный совет организации ICEF. Доктор Танака, вот с вашим бесценным международным опытом, как вам видится настоящее и будущее энергетики, учитывая вот достаточно критические события последних месяцев? Как мы можем преодолеть наступивший кризис? Какие вы видите пути достижения вот баланса в энергетическом переходе, баланса между экономическим ростом, между энергетической безопасностью и между предложением энергетических ресурсов с одной стороны и целью устойчивого развития с другой?
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Igolfechin, my very good friend, to invite me to the energy session of Speak 2022 again this year. It's really great honor for me. Thank you very much. In fact, my successor in the International Energy Agency, the Executive Director Fatih Birol, recently said that we are in the middle of the first global energy crisis. In 70s, it was the oil crisis, and now we have oil crisis, a natural gas crisis, coal crisis. All prices, including commodities, are skyrocketing, and energy security is a priority for many governments. Just as Mr. Sechin, you say, it's a tectonic change. And in fact, Russia reconfirmed that she is the energy superpower. The IEA was established in the first oil shock of 1974. Dr. Henry Kissinger, who is the founding father of the IEA, said that consuming countries were totally unprepared to the oil embargo by the OPEC. But the exact opposite thing happened about a year ago when the IEA published the analysis called Net Zero by 2050. Oil-producing countries and their companies were panicked when they heard Fatih Birol said that energy groups must stop all new oil and gas exploration projects from this year. I call it the first IEA shock. Net Zero by 2050 tells us if the world governments should achieve carbon neutral by 2050, the peak demand of oil could have happened already in 2019. And for natural gas, it would happen by the middle of 2020s. The current global energy crisis will eventually balance back because fuel are fungible. And also higher prices of fuels will definitely induce new investments. But these climate shocks would be much more profound and disastrous than the global fuel shock if we are not well prepared. Nobody can stop this happening. There are winners and losers. Europe is accelerating the decarbonization for energy security. Hydrogen is the key tool. The United States is driven by the megatech companies who plan to decarbonize their whole supply chain even earlier by 2030. China aims to be a renewable energy superpower. Japan may restart nuclear power plants to reduce gas consumption. Saudi Arabia plans to generate green and blue hydrogen to avoid stranded acetization of their oil. I'm afraid to say, Igor, that Russia seems to me the least prepared for this climate shock. Western sanctions on technology, self-withdrawal of investments may hurt your ability to adapt. And the security and sustainability of one country, or any country, cannot be achieved by oneself. International collaboration is urgently needed in the energy sector. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tanaka. I do have some comments on the universal approach of the low-carbon economy and how universal it has to be, and the fourth energy transition that I believe is based not on the competition or effectiveness of energy carriers, but somewhat political and ideological pressure. But thank you very much for your speech. Thank you very much for your presentation. Arigato. And now, allow me to move over to India and an Indian company, Oil and Natural Gas Corporation, VDASH, ONGC VDASH, represented by Mr. Gupta. Mr. Gupta, your company, together with Rosneft, has participated in a number of large production projects that includes Vankor Field, one of probably largest oil fields that has lately been commissioned, certainly in the last quarter of a century. That is the oil field that is part of yet another promising and truly transformational project of Rosneft, namely Vostok Oil, that was covered by Nan's decision in his speech. OSGC is also a shareholder in Sakhalin-1 project, that is a high-tech project with colossal resource base. Would you please share with us how do you see the synergies of cooperation with Russia? And in this regard, how do you see the future of the energy sector and the role of India in the reset of global economy? The floor is yours.
I'm extremely delighted to be part of the St. Petersburg Forum this year. I think this answer to this question has to be looked in the context of how India is growing, and also in the context of what is the current balance of hydrocarbon supply and demand globally. So on the first point, the share of primary energy is bound to grow, and what is expected is that the share of India is going to be around 11% by 2040 in the global energy supply consumption. And it is my belief that besides a great space being occupied by the renewable energy, oil and gas are going to remain the mainstays, as they had been in the global energy context for last so many years. The world still relies about 80% on oil and gas in terms of primary energy supplies. The price downturn which happened in the hydrocarbon industry in 2014, the industry has witnessed a continuous decline in the investments in be it be exploration, be it be development or production. And the result has been that the global supply capacities in the hydrocarbon industry has been constantly depleted of what it used to be in 2014. Now, in such a scenario, we are now today very, very fine balance of supply and demand of hydrocarbons in oil and gas in the global economy. With such a fine balance, if there is any disruption in the supply of oil and gas from any part of the world, it directly impacts the economies, the balance that is established in terms of economic growth, and North America or down under in Australia, the inflation is really eating into the common man's pocket. And this is where I see that there has to be a balance between some conflicts and the cooperation among the countries, among the nations globally. And in this context, it is where I see that the cooperation between energy suppliers globally, be it from Latin America, be it from Middle East or from Russia, and the global consumers of energy has to be maintained going forward in the larger good of the common global common citizen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gupta. I wish you all the best in achievement of the very ambitious goal that you've just mentioned, $20 trillion of US dollar GDP that India is setting for itself. We have one more participant from Asia, that is Mr. Pedro Aquino, who is the head of a trading company, Oil and Petroleum Holdings International Resources. That is a company that also has an extensive track record of cooperating with Rosneft and indeed in the Asia-Pacific region. And as we all know, that this is the region that is truly strategically important for Rosneft. Due to the nature of your profession, traders are normally very sensitive towards the needs, the modes and demands of both suppliers and consumers of energy carriers. And under the current circumstances, when supply chains are being disrupted, it is extremely important to understand what would be the potential solution to the current situation. Mr. Aquino, in his speech, Mr. Sechin mentioned the importance and the promising prospects of creating new alliances. How do you see the role of the Asia-Pacific region in this new economic world order? And what is the role of cooperation with Russia in this context? How can it be developed further in the most promising manner, also taking into account the importance of sustainability and security and of supplies?
Good day to the panel of speakers headed by Chairman Igor Ivanovich Sechin and to all the participants in this session. The new economic order is characterized by high costs of oil and gas, high inflation, food shortage, and high costs of goods and services. Everybody believes that the new economic order was brought about by the Russian special military operation in Ukraine. In my honest opinion, this may be partly correct, but the main reason is the Western intervention. The issue of financial sanction imposed by Western countries should be carefully studied. This will depend mainly on the use of currency to purchase oil and gas from Russia. Russia should start considering accepting other currencies like RMB and rupee. In addition, it should start considering special discounts to those countries in the Asia-Pacific region to cushion the impact of rising oil and gas and enable them to rein on their inflation. Finally, Russia should start establishing strategic marketing and distribution offices in the Asia-Pacific region. Let me conclude by quoting the old saying, "No man is an island." Thank you and good day to all.
Большое спасибо, господин Акино.
Thank you very much, Mr. Aquino.
Очень много интересных мыслей было в вашем выступлении. И отдельные ваши позиции, они как раз совпадают с теми намерениями России, которая сегодня создает новую экономическую модель. Я благодарю всех за участие.
Today create the new economic model. Thank you, everyone.